Thank you very much, Chair. Distinguished guests, participants, commissioners, may I say all protocols observed? Because I may end up not following the protocol if I continue mentioning, because I don't know who is in this room. I'm going to look at the Chirundu OSBP. And I wish to thank Kevin for his presentation. He has mentioned East Africa, West Africa, what is being done and things like that. I've participated in most of those workshops, and there are a lot of lessons that we are learning from there. But I will focus on the Chirundu OSBP, and I'll give the introduction, the background, and I'll highlight the traffic flow at Chirundu. Then I'll look at the challenges, lessons, benefits, and the way forward. So, as for Chirundu, the infrastructure development started not with the one-stop border in mind. It's because of the changes that were taking place within the region. So both Zambia and Zimbabwe started constructing their infrastructure from the late 1990s to 2007. And as the two countries were putting up their infrastructure, the Japanese made a donation of a bridge. They constructed a new bridge, which they donated to us in 2002. Zimbabwe completed its infrastructure in 2005. Zambia took more than 2-3 years to complete its infrastructure because there was a request from private sector of the inclusion of offices within the infrastructure that was being developed by the government. And it's these developments that were taking place that the COMESA Council of Ministers made a decision in 2005 to say we need to pilot the one border stop at Chirundu because basically the infrastructure was allowing that process to be done. However, despite the decision, the implementation only commenced in 2007 when we put in the implementation framework. The project manager was appointed under Regional Trade Facilitation Program. And between 2007 and 2009, we had to develop the enabling legislation. Zimbabwe had to put up a One Border Stop Control Act, and Zambia also had to put up the enabling legislation because there was no regional framework which was there, like as it is in East Africa. East Africa, they're trying to do it at the regional level. They have the East African community. I don't know whether it's an act yet. It was a bill 3 months ago when I checked. So this was a bilateral, and the two countries had to come up with the legislation to provide for establishment of one border stop. Besides that, the two countries now had to negotiate a bilateral agreement which provided for the obligations, responsibilities of the officers, the requirements of what should be done, who's going to do what within the one border stop arrangement. And in this regard, there was the definition of the common control zone. That is the area within which the bilateral agreement shall apply, because the bilateral agreement called for extraterritorial application of national laws. And besides that, we also started developing procedures. What is interesting is that procedures were implemented in 2010 after the one border stop had been implemented. Training, as it has been alluded to, was cardinal. We had to train both the Zambian and Zimbabwean staff in one room, private sector as well as public sector, so that we gave the same message to all in order to avoid the misinterpretation or misunderstanding as regards the application of bilateral agreement as well as national laws. Infrastructure adjustment had to be done because the infrastructure was already there before the concept. So we had to make some alterations to certain infrastructure and things like that. But critical in the implementation was the establishment of the framework of implementation of the OSBP. We have at the national level a steering committee which comprises all heads of institutions that are involved in all border processes. Then we had a technical committee which is still running, which now looks at the policy formulation and then reports to the steering committee for decision making. Then at the local level, we have the Joint Operations Committee on OSBP. This one does the day-to-day operations of the OSBP. In terms of running of the OSBP, it's the JOC that is responsible for this. And the JOC is co-chaired by the two revenue authorities, Zambia Revenue Authority and the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority. And the deputies are immigration. So the Chirundu OSBP structure is juxtaposed because we have a natural barrier, which is the Zambezi River. The Chirundu OSBP, on either side is called Chirundu. So that's the beginning of the OSBP. Like I have said, it was launched on 5th December 2009 before we could agree on the procedures. But because of the strong political will and leadership, we started moving, because what we were talking about was not the traditional customs way of doing things. We were looking at how we are going to do things. So this is what made it practical for us to start operating even before we had the agreed procedures. And the structures of the Chirundu OSBP allows officers from both countries to operate at the same location, conducting exit and entry formalities in one country. In terms of the traffic, all traffic only stop in the country of importation, and that's where exit formalities are done first before entry formalities are done. The OSBP model for Chirundu is what we are calling the total, we call it the hybrid, and we want to call it the Chirundu OSBP, nothing else. Because when you go to the textbooks, you look at all the models, and you go to what is a Chirundu, it's different. We had to do what is supposed to be done to facilitate trade. So we have total separation, where we are supposed to perform exit formalities before entry formalities commences. At the same time, within the same area, we have joint operations. Like all inspections, we have agreed that they must be done jointly. If they are not done jointly, the country of exit, the moment it has done the inspection, the results must be shared with the country of importation. And they must be accepted as such. At the same time, we are sharing these facilities. So this model will never be found in any textbook until I write one. Like I said, the country of exit hosts officers performing exit formalities leading to both exit and entry functions be done in one facility. We have the common control zone where all these are supposed to be performed. Outside the common control zone, respective national laws take effect. I've mentioned the enabling legislation, and I've said officers carry out the border controls in host states. This is provided for by the bilateral agreement. Entry procedures cannot commence before exit procedures are done. But this is done in line with the national laws. For instance, both Zambia and Zimbabwe have laws that allow for pre-clearance in terms of customs formalities. So we are able to pre-clear most of our goods because it's provided for within our national laws, despite the fact that the bilateral agreement says, first, the exit formalities must be done before the entry formalities are done. And where possible, now we are talking about the joint operations. Now we're not even saying where possible. This is what we are doing. Of course, it had to take a strong political will from the steering committee to direct the inspector generals, because Interpol had challenges to accept each other's results. So it had to take the steering committee to give a directive to say, you start conducting joint inspections. Now, quickly, let me highlight what happens to the southbound traffic. That is the traffic that is coming from Zambia into Zimbabwe. all traffic use the new bridge in exiting Zambia. But since the OSBP is still being refined, we shall change this process. We are going to separate the commercial and passenger traffic. Passenger traffic will be confined to the old bridge, whether entry or exit from either side. The new bridge will be confined only to the commercial traffic. Electronic processing is done on the Zambian side due to connectivity challenges which is there, because the connectivity has not been done within the common control zone for us to perform the exit formalities when we are sitting on the Zimbabwean side. So the exit formalities for all exports from Zambia, the trucks have to stop so that we finish those formalities. Secondly, we have the trucks that are stopping. In case of those carrying sugar, maize, and anything that animals can feast on, because on the other side, there is a national park, and the animals have a right of the way. The monkeys, that is their territory. You can't stop them from doing whatever they're doing. So for maize, we keep it on the Zambian side until we have finished all border formalities. That's when we allow the truck to go through the border process, or else the monkeys will start feasting on that. So that is the challenge we have with the OSBP. An additional verification point exists on the Zim side because we need to contain the export and the transit frauds. Yeah? Because the traffic is not supposed to stop on the other side, and if there is no one on the ground to check what is happening other than dealing with the documents in the office, then we are likely to experience these issues. At the same time, our role on the other side as Zambian authorities is to issue the common gate pass. We have one gate pass at Chirundu, which is issued by Zambia and acquitted by Zimbabwe. And this is how we are monitoring what is taking place within our common control zone. Officers have even to indicate the time when the truck has arrived, the time when the truck is leaving. It's a manual process which we are going to computerize soon. And we're saying no border formalities is done on the Zambian side of the CCZ other than those commercial customs formalities. Everything must be done on the other side. We perform the manual functions of acquittal later on because of the connectivity challenge which I've mentioned. And this is, what have I done with this? This is basically the presentation of, the graphic representation of the Chirundu OSBP. Yeah? For southbound, northbound, the same usually happens. For the northbound traffic, that is the traffic coming from Zimbabwe, all commercial traffic passes through the new bridge. For northbound, we have separated. The passenger traffic uses the old bridge. The commercial traffic uses the new bridge. And they don't stop on the Zim side other than doing the weighing through the road agency. The CCZ gate pass is processed by the Zimbabwean authorities on the Zambian side. And thereafter, they are going to do the manual, they will do the manual acquittal, and later on, at the end of the day, they are going to do the electronic acquittal when we close the border. And this is what is causing one of the challenges we have of opening hours, because they are saying, look, we need to do the acquittal of what we did the previous day. The passenger traffic and the coaches, they will go through the old bridge straight into the passenger terminal, where all exit and entry formalities are performed. So as you can see, the lead line there indicates the passenger traffic from the Zim side straight onto the Zambian side. The challenge we have is that, as you can see, the facilities, they are fenced off. Whilst we have especially the passenger route, which is not fenced off, it's not part of the common control zone. And that has posed a challenge, but we have a solution soon, and it will be sorted out. I will mention that. Some of the challenges that we have is ICT connectivity, and this has been mentioned. Suffice to say that we are addressing this. So far, within the common control zone, we have terminated the fiber to all operation points. We are remaining with activation of those points so that we can start operating from all points of the common control zone. We should be able to link to our systems regardless of where you are seated. Inadequate signage, it's also being addressed by both the governments, though we have our cooperating partners who have taken it up to say they are going to fix that. The commercial facilities in the CCZ is posing a serious challenge. And I've been saying that wherever I've been to say avoid putting commercial facilities in the common control zone. Because this is a common control zone where we should only have international travelers. And you have also 2 officers of 2 respective countries. So you shouldn't allow the local people to start mingling in that. It has posed a problem with us. We have infrastructure and appropriateness. We have 2 scanning machines at the Chirundu. One is operational on the Zambian side, and soon the other one will be operational on the Zimbabwean side. Now, the machine on the Zimbabwean side is on the wrong side of the traffic configuration. So we are going now to restructure traffic circulation at Chirundu. Unfortunately, this has been funded, I think, by COMESA. We are going to put up 2 roundabouts on the Zim side so that the traffic will be rerouted to the other side where the machine is for scanning. Besides that, we also intend to remove the weigh bridge from the common control zone on the Zim side. We will relocate it outside for all purposes of weighing, not for the traffic that is making exit. And the resources have been secured. That's a fortunate thing we have. On the Zambian side, we don't have a shed, we don't have an inspection bay for passengers. Again, the Zambian government has committed itself. My commissioner and myself just approved the designs of the shed as well as the inspection bay. We don't have the secure counter on the Zambian side. It's more of an airport, it's an open area, the Zimbabweans this side, the Zambians this side, and things like that. And our colleagues are complaining to say they need to secure their computers. So we are looking at that also. We haven't yet sourced funds to secure the equipment, especially for our counterparts. Multiplicity of the agencies, it's been mentioned. Our strategy as Zambia is to use the system. We are going to upgrade our computer system to, I think, to a SCUDA world. And it's through that, because the SCUDA world is web-based, it's through that mechanism, that's where we want our colleagues to be linked to our system and see how best they can be making their intervention prior to the arrival of the goods. Because their complaints is that they can't access our system. So they have an issue of always trying to follow the physical documents whenever it has been declared. Now we are doing a lot of pre-clearances. So they'll hold on to the documents. They won't even know that the truck has arrived. So we have that challenge actually. And through the CBM, we intend to address that challenge of rationalizing who should be at the border and who shouldn't be at the border. Because one of the things we wanted to do under OSBP is the fast-track system of clearance of the goods. It can't happen because we are so many. On the Zambian side, we are 15. On Zim side, there are 9. Different commercial operation hours, it's something also that we are going to address through the streamlining of the operations. When we are electronically linked to our systems, then we should be starting at the same time with our colleagues to operate. We won't be starting at 8. We'll be starting at 6, all of us, the way we are doing with passenger terminal. Passenger processing, we're starting at 6, all of us. While it's commercial, there are these variations. Then there's lack of coordinates defining the common control zone. Like I said, when you are coming from the other side, you only find the common control zone to exist when you have entered the Zambian side, which has posed a challenge of, in terms of traffic circulation. If you have to chase somebody to Chirundu, because you're going to enter the common control zone, and you're going to turn on the Zim side. Now, instead of making exit there, you are supposed to be an international traveler. You should have finished all the formalities. And the authorities there won't allow you. But in the meantime, what we have agreed is that all people that access the common control zone, they must go and report to the immigration within the common control zone. Say, I'm a visitor in the common control zone, I'm not a traveler. So that they're given a gate pass in order for security not to harass them. The Surveyor Generals are working on this, and we expect to have coordinates by January this year. Lack of performance evaluation mechanism. We don't have it, but at the same time, our colleagues, TIMSA, they have had their mechanism which is based on GPS. And they have given us the results. Right now, again, they have sponsored somebody to do now the evaluation of the processing time and things like that. Risk management program is a big challenge to us. As customs, we have these programs. But there are colleagues from other government agencies who regard everything as risk. We want to have one common risk management program, but our colleagues from agriculture and vet, they have their own reservations about this. Higher performance expectation, yes. When we started, we had an average of 210 trucks per day. Now, the trucks have shot up to more than 500 per day. The lessons, environmental consideration is critical for us to agree on what type of model we want. Look at social, cultural, political, yeah? Environment. I've been around to look at what is happening in the region. And I went to a country, they are trying to put up new infrastructure, and they said, why don't we have a straddle structure? And I was told to say, look, anytime we can fight. Yeah? So those are critical. Political considerations, they are critical in determining the model that you want to adopt. You must understand the way you relate with one another, whether you can have one structure or not. Establishment of leadership at all levels is cardinal. You must have leadership at local level, technical level, at national level for you to succeed with this. You need to have consensus at the national level. At what model do you want? The challenge we have been facing is the security. Security have their own reservations. Police, police and state security, the army. They have their own reservations. But we must lead them. We must agree with them to say, our security won't be endangered. I'm summarizing up. The procedures and the processes formulation lead to process. I think these are some of the things that we have talked about, and I think we have no variations with what ADB is saying. The legal framework development should be in line with the issues that are on the ground and what we intend to do in future. The infrastructure must come last, because now you have agreed, you have conceptualized what you want to do for that particular border, whether traffic is going to grow, where is the growth going to come from. Like I've said, consensus building is very important among all GAs so that we don't have to differ within ourselves as a country, because we'll be having these joint meetings. And it's embarrassing when you start differing instead of having one common national position. ICT utilization, it's also a critical factor. Change management, it's been talked about, I think I won't repeat. The joint operations and inspection should be the focus as we agree on how we implement our OSBP, or else it won't make sense to the business community. If one vehicle be inspected twice, even if it is standing at the same position, let it be inspected once. Simplification and the development of common instruments and the processes is cardinal. Chirundu, we have done a common gate pass, which is issued by the exit country, acquitted by the entry country. Support your initiative. You need to have other initiatives. For customs, for instance, you must have pre-clearance in place, authorized economic operators. All those must be implemented so that we can even buy in from our colleagues to see how best we can do things. Besides, I'm just talking about CBM here because CBM is what is being talked about. The benefits, let me go through them quickly. Clearance time has been reduced to 1 day. These are not our results. They are results that are coming from our cooperating partners. They have said we have reduced the clearance time from 3 to 5 days to 1 day now. Quick traffic turnaround, which has increased business opportunities, especially for SMEs. For an SME now to spend the night in Lusaka, it's either he's got a particular relationship, not necessarily business, because almost all the buses are in Lusaka by 10 hours every day. And by 15 hours, they are starting off for Harare, and they'll be at Chirundu by 17 hours. So basically, the SMEs are the critical beneficiary of the OSBP. And that's why we are saying, in terms of commercial, we are at 90% implementation. But for commercial, I think we're at 100%. Joint operations, such as inspections, is feasible now. We are sharing the information amongst ourselves at border agencies. There is a drastic reduction of frauds. Suffice to say that the frauds now have moved to a bilateral level. It can't be done at a national level. It means other officers from the other country must be involved for a fraud to go through. Enhanced interaction of officers are exchanging ideas. The best practices are being shared. The Zambians will say, oh, Zimbabweans are doing this, why can't we do it also? Or Zimbabweans are saying, oh, Zambians are doing this, why can't we do this also? Oh, there are air cons. Here the air con is not working and things like that. So we're even enhancing our standards because of this interaction. The reduced cost of doing business, those results of a day They are not our results. We intend to be getting our own results soon. Our way forward, we are saying we intend to develop a community-based platform, an electronic-based platform where all border agencies must access the information and act on it before the arrival of the truck, or give us an alert if they want to make any intervention. We intend to implement an online acquittal system. I've talked about the manual acquittal. We want to do away with the manual acquittal. We want to acquit this truck as it stands before it goes inside, not what is obtaining. We intend to connect the scanners to the systems so that we can access the images and attach them to our declarations. Deploy the CCTV in order to enhance security. And this is very practical, and we're going to do it because one private sector investor has shown it in Zambia at Kasumbalesa. Provide security lights at the bridge and in all operation areas. There are operation areas where we don't have security lights, and we want to have that done, and government of Zambia and Zimbabwe, they are working on that. The web bridge data, we want to be exchanging this data, like I've said. We intend also to implement the electronic data exchange, create an electronic risk database. These are some of the recommendations that can act as a guide when you want to consider the OSBP. They are not cast in stone. You can make variations depending on the environment and other factors that affect a particular border. In conclusion, OSBP, we see it as a trade facilitation instrument that must be supported by other initiatives such as pre-clearance, authorized economic operators for customs. Proper ICT must be in place, as well as appropriate physical infrastructure, which should facilitate the traffic circulation. It is a process to ensure integration and harmonized border systems that respond to business needs, leading to reduction in cost of doing business. The GOSC that I talked about, we have private sector sitting on there. All key stakeholders sit on that to share ideas on how to ensure that there is efficiency at the border. Finally, OSBP is a mindset change on how to do business, nothing else. That is how we have to implement it without procedures, because we were set to ensure that this is what the private sector wants, and we had to do it. Officers should see no nationality, but they should see client. Because normally border officers are used to say, oh, this is Zimbabwean, this is South African. They should see only clients and no nationality for OSBP to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our presenters. And in the interest of time, I won't go into a detailed summary. Suffice it to say that the presentations highlight the complexity of establishing a one-stop border and the myriad of initiatives and requirements to make sure that it functions properly. And I think the Chirundu experience gives us valuable lessons for pursuing one-stop border establishment in the region.